Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of the Gambia. The national anthem, please. Thank you very much, the Gambia Police Band. I think before we start, can we do a silent prayers? Thank you. Your Excellency, the Vice President and Minister for Women's Affairs, Honorable Ministers, the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Head of UN agencies, Chief of Operations, UNFPA, Permanent Secretaries here present, Governors and Mayors here present, Directors and senior government officials here present, venerable religious leaders, the press, distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen, and all other protocols respectively observed. Good morning to you all. First of all, before I start, I just want to thank all of you for coming, for answering to our call. Most particularly, Her Excellency, the Vice President, who is able to spare time out of a very busy schedule to be with us here today, this morning. I personally would want to thank her for the support that she has been rendering to our cause, that is to improve the quality of life of all Gambians. She has championed the cause of women in the Gambia and girls and the youth. Today I'm standing here to step in for my permanent secretary. I'm deputizing her to be the master of ceremony of this particular occasion. I would want to say I'm indeed pleased and honored to be given this opportunity to serve as master of ceremony of the launch of the 2016 State of World Population Report. And indeed, I'm privileged to give the introductory remark on this important occasion. The launch, and as it was in the previous years, aims at increasing awareness on global demographic scenarios and issues affecting our quest for a better world. It is one of the major annual advocacy events in the population program that tries to galvanize support for addressing population and development issues affecting our livelihood. Ladies and gentlemen, in recognition of the challenges faced by our adolescents, particularly girls, this year's State of World Population report entitled 10 How Our Future Depends on a Girl at This Decisive Age. It places particular emphasis on girls at 10 who are at risk of exploitation and abuse. It is in this respect that we are today reflecting on the lives of the 10-year-old girls, the limited opportunities that lies ahead of them, and choices that will influence their education and later their work and life. In this regard, the launch will, among others, take stock of challenges of violence against the 10-year-old girls, decisions taken by parents, communities, and nation, and the impact they have on the 10-year-old girls' education, health, and long-term employment opportunities. The launch will also provide an opportunity for us to take stock of appropriate actions to be taken in protecting the rights of girls and improving their well-being. Today's launch would inform you about the relationship between early marriage, violence against girls, exploitation and lack of access to justice, and a girl's health, education, rights, the realization of her potentials, the health of her future family, and the economic productivity of a nation. The launch, Your Excellency, distinguished guests, would look at approaches to be taken in tackling the challenges faced by the 10-year-old girl. This would include changing the attitudes and actions of the society, keeping girls in school, stopping child marriage, changing attitudes about gender roles and gender equality, increasing adolescent access to sexual and reproductive health, and protecting girls against violence and exploitation. Your Excellency, at this juncture, I would, on behalf of my colleagues in the program, thank UNFPA for all the invaluable support that they've provided from the very beginning of the partnership with the Gambia government in addressing population and development issues. I'm therefore confident that you will find this report a valuable guide for better decision making on the lives of girls, particularly those at 10. Thank you very much. Now, I would like to, according to the program, there is going to be a welcome remarks and statement on behalf of the UN system by the resident coordinator of the UN system, or UNDP, Madam Adema Minyana. Madam, can we have the floor now?
Mr. Chairman, Her Excellency, the Vice President and Minister for Women's Affairs, Honorable Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Ministers here present, members of the Diplomatic and Consular Corps, the Vice Chancellor of the University of the Gambia, the World Bank representative, UN heads of agencies and colleagues, representative of government ministries and departments, religious and traditional leaders, NGO representatives, private sector representatives, representatives of the press, representatives of the security forces, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, our dear students. It is my honor to welcome you to this occasion, the launch of the State of World Population Report 2016, an annual event by the United Nations Population Fund, UNFPA. This year's report is titled, 10, How Our Future Depends on a Girl at This Decisive Age. The theme cannot be more apt, the reason being that today's 10-year-old girl will be 24 years of age when progress towards the United Nations new development agenda is tallied in 2030. That agenda aims for inclusive, equitable, and sustainable development that leaves no one behind. For many 10-year-old girls, this pivotal age is a time for new possibilities, but unfortunately, for the majority of them, mostly in developing countries, it is a time to face unending challenges which impedes their path to a decent adulthood because of limited choices and opportunities. As we sit here in this hall, we must reflect on our responsibilities and action to ensure that the right investments are made to help the 10-year-old girl to dream for a better and brighter future, to realize her true potentials. Allow me at this juncture to commend the government of the Islamic Republic of the Gambia for taking the bold step to ban female genital mutilation and child marriage. Congratulations. And congratulations also to the President, His Excellency Sheikh Professor Yaya Ejeye Jammeh Kabili Mansa, for the bold step. This is a giant step indeed in ensuring that there are endless possibilities for the girl child to reach the limits of her potential. To conclude, let me reaffirm the United Nations' continued partnership with the government and people of the Islamic Republic of the Gambia. The United Nations system will continue to support national efforts for ending both FGM and child marriages at the policy and community levels and population and development issues. I thank you for your attention.
Now I would want to call upon the Honorable Minister of Basic and Secondary Education, who is going to deliver a statement. I understand the Minister of Works and Communication, Infrastructure is going to step in for her. Mr. Njai, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I'm delivering this statement on behalf of the Minister for Basic and Secondary Education. And the statements read, Your Chairperson, Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Islamic Republic of the Gambia and Minister of Women Affairs, Dr. Ajaratu Aissatou Njie Sedi. Honorable Ministers here represented, National Assembly members, Permanent Secretaries, Country Director UNFPA, and the head of the United Nations, senior government officials, and members of the press, police band, school children, ladies and gentlemen, all other protocols duly and respectively observed. And the statement goes on. I am profoundly delighted that I have been given this opportunity to make a statement at the launching of the State of the World Population Report, which determines how our future depends on a girl at this decisive age. In this ever-changing world that we live in today, increasing in population seems to pose a great challenge for nations as it impacts heavily on national resources for the provision of social service such as health and education. As well as access to food, the situation raises these questions as to whether the world population should be controlled as we move forward. The position of many societies around the world is that if nothing is done about the population growth, pollution, poverty, and deprivation will increase, and resources to fulfill our needs will continue to decline. We have been informed through this UNFPA website that as from March 2016, the world population was estimated at 7.4 billion, an all-time record high, and girls and women account for more than half of this figure. The UN estimated that if it will further increase to 11.2 billion by the year 210, which is 2100. Therefore, this could not have been a more appropriate term that this year, given that girls are considering to be among the primary agents of population growth. Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, teenage girls around the world face enormous challenges as they are exposed to many risks and pressure on a scale that most of the parents did not have to deal with. And this is mainly due to globalization, which has accelerated change to extent that the structure and protection previously generation of women and children have are no longer in place, or they are eroded. The group within population receiving contradicting message on how to address this daily choice, which has lifeline consequences for this development. Millions are denied the essential support they need to become knowledge, confidence, and skilled adult. The missing out school for economical reason or because the committee are displaced or are at the risk of the following. Earlier, an unwanted pregnancy, been exposed to sexual transmission infection, including HIV and AIDS, been vulnerable to danger of tobacco use, alcohol, and other drugs, been exposed to violence and fear of daily basis, and addressing the need has become a challenge that goes well beyond the role of a Minister of Health alone. Been putting through the harmful traditional practice such as FGM and early marriage, for which they are most of the time withdraw from school. Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is worth mentioning that most girls are full of optimism and represent a positive force in society, an asset now and for the future as they grow and develop into adults. Furthermore, many girls are at the risk of developing fetus, which invariably lead to social stigma and isolation. Child marriage is a violation of rights of the girls and obstruct to attain the UN Sustainable Development Goal, specifically the Target 5.3, which called for the elimination of all harmful practice, including child marriage, early and forceful marriage, as well as FGM. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is heartwarming to know that Her Excellency, the First Lady of the Islamic Republic of the Gambia, Madam Zainab Yahya Jammeh, through her foundation, Operation Save the Children, in collaboration with the Department of Social Welfare, has been at the forefront of advocating effort to end the practice, leading to launching of the African Union End Child Marriage campaign in the country on the 16th June 2006. The whole country and development partners also welcome the pronouncement made by His Excellency President Dr. Alhaji Yahya AJ Jammeh Babili Mansa on Wednesday, 6 July 2016, banning child marriage in the Republic of the Gambia. And the same vein, on the 21st July 2016, ignited of the Child Amendment Bill, Amendment of Children Act 2015, the National Assembly criminalized the act. This makes marriage any child below the age of 18 illegal in this country, with a penalty of up to 20 years imprisonment for the parent and the husband of the child. This significant turnover is developed for countries caused less than a year after a presidential announcement in December 2016 banning female genital mutilation in this country. Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, since our future depends on girls, at this decisive age, we must take them to school and allow them to stay and perform. The benefit of keeping girls in schools are far-reaching as drivers of social and economic development. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, governments wherever need to invest in teenage girls is a way that empower them to make important life decisions and equip them on that a day would come when they would earn a living and engage in affairs of their communities and be on equal footing with their male counterpart. Investments are also needed to protect their health, including sexual and reproduction health, to enable them receive quality education to expand economic opportunity, included those for decisive work at teenage girls whose rights are respected and who is able to realize her full potential is a girl who is more likely to contribute to economic and social progress of her own community and nation. In conclusion, we must highlight the population's issues, specifically the need and the current condition of youths, girls, and women in the Gambia. Since this report to be launched today focus on the current situation of idoless girls, we must ensure that she achieves the highest level of education so as to be educated, an educator, and reproductive citizen of the Gambia. The stepping stone for success, especially for girls, is education, education. Because with education comes health, economic development, and success, and it is therefore right to say that our future depends on girls at this decisive age. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much for your kind attention.
We are going to have a video presentation on the theme.
Today, an estimated 600 million girls aged out of school.
My name is Aisha. I am 10 years old.
Despite her huge potential and plans for a great future, Aisha could become yet another statistic: a victim of female genital mutilation, a child bride married up against her best interest, a teenage mother with little or no access to good health care and proper nutrition for her baby, one child taking up the responsibility of caring for another child. The statistics may paint a bleak picture, but there is hope for the future. All of those worries can be nipped in the bud, but only if girls like Aisha at age 10 are given the chance to fulfill their dreams. Aisha wants to be a scientist, so she can help her community with excellent and quality health care, especially for children, adolescents, and women. In the Gambia today, less than 50% of the girls enrolled in primary school make it through to secondary school. A staggering 45% of adolescent girls are likely to be married up before they turn 18. Aisha and so many of her friends may become these brides. Recent reports have shown that 10% of 5 to 14-year-old girls do more than 28 hours of household chores a week, twice the amount of time recorded for boys. There is a need for a shift, but our girls are products of the same system and are more than likely to continue a cycle of semi-literacy, child marriage, and other harmful cultural practices. Globally, more than 60% of women lack basic literacy skills. Considering that they are an important rubric in developing economies, this impacts negatively on the future of our society.
When I grow up, I want to be a scientist, so I can support my family and contribute to my community.
The actualization of the Global Sustainable Development Goals to eliminate extreme poverty, get all children through primary school, end discrimination against all girls and women, and eliminate harmful traditional practices such as female genital mutilation and child marriage depends on the life trajectory of a 10-year-old today. The future we envision can only happen if we create an enabling environment for girls to thrive at all levels. In the Gambia, the government has taken giant steps to end female genital mutilation and child marriage by passing legislation against these practices, ensuring the protection of all girls and women. With this new opportunity, there is an even greater chance to end these practices with concerted efforts to reach practicing communities and inspire voluntary abandonment. There is an imminent need to invest in and support the 10-year-old girls today, as this will determine what our future will look like in 2030. The United Nations Population Fund, UNFPA, is working to ensure that all girls in developing countries are given the best opportunities to dream and take a step to realize these dreams with as little hindrance as possible. Invest in the girl child today. Her future will shape our collective futures.
Gambian Parliament, the Majority Leader, I welcome you, Excellencies, Ambassadors, and other members of the Diplomatic Corps here present, heads of UN agencies, top government functionaries, our partners in the population program, Zainab, welcome, and ladies and gentlemen. My conversation this morning is two parts. I would first like to give a brief snapshot of UNFPA's view of this report and why this report is so substantial to us this year. Gender discrimination makes this risk worse for girls in almost every way. We need to consider a few facts here. Every day, about 47,000 girls, many of them as young as 10, are at risk of early or forced marriage. With child marriage often comes pregnancy, as you would expect, and with child pregnancy comes significant health risks and curtailed education. The health risks to girls include obstetric fistula, like we had, we screened a movie here a few months ago, and we speak about obstetric fistula. All this would undermine the girl's prospect for job and self-sufficiency. For millions of girls, the arrival of puberty marks the beginning of a lifetime of poverty, powerlessness, and missed opportunities. This is an unforgivable injustice, if we were to see, and a violation of the girl's fundamental human rights. When a girl enjoys her rights and is able to stay in school, fundamental, stay healthy, and is protected from child marriage and early pregnancy, she's got a better chance of realizing her full potential. And by the time she reaches adulthood, she becomes a value to the country as opposed to being a liability. At this point, we would say that she would then be better equipped to find a job and a good wage, seize opportunities that may arise in our path in the world. At this point, I must appreciate the effort of the government of the Gambia that, as has been stated by various speakers, in banning FGM and child marriage, and also fundamentally prescribing legislation, appropriate legislation to deal with this issue. Please can we give a round of applause for the government of the Gambia? The state of the world population shows that girls who reach adulthood with an education and their health and rights intact stand the triple lifetime opportunity to earn income. Higher income and great productivity can help fuel progress for the entire countries of this world. Over the next 15 years alone, developing countries together stand to gain or forfeit at least $21 billion, depending on whether they invest in the well-being, education, and independence of their 10-year-old girl today. The number may seem small, considering it covers so many countries, but for the individual girl, the gain can be substantial. The state of the world population shows that our collective future depends on how we support today's 60 million 10-year-old girls in the world and their journey as they move from childhood to adolescence, and from adolescence to adulthood. Today's 10-year-old girl will be 24 when the progress towards the United Nations Development Agenda is tallied in 2030. That agenda aims for inclusive, equitable, and sustainable development that leaves no one behind. The real test for success of the development agenda will be whether every 10-year-old girl today will be healthy, educated, and productive by 2030. With support from family, community, and the nation, as Aisha in the video hopes, and the full realization of our rights, a 10-year-old girl can thrive and bring about the future we all want. In the Gambia, the UNFPA will continue to support work and efforts to ensure that the 10-year-old girl gets the right investments. We're committed to supporting government, as the RC had said earlier, especially through girl education, including age-appropriate and country-specific comprehensive sexuality education. I thank you for that. Yeah. Now, the second part, now you can dim the light. I will try to take you, Your Excellency, invited guests, through a few slides to try to describe what we might be missing and what we could gain if we invested in the 10-year-old girl. So the question we want to ask is that why does this report, like I said, this is to help us a little grasp the report. Why does this report talk about a 10-year-old girl? Why not a 10-year-old boy or a 15-year-old girl? Why are we speaking about a 10-year-old girl? And the reason is that of the goals that have been outlined by the world leaders, we have spoken about the Sustainable Development Goals, and the 10-year-old girl will be 25 when those goals are achieved. World leaders have agreed on a set of Sustainable Development Goals that will guide action, global action, towards achieving them. Yeah. A 10-year-old girl's life trajectory will be the true test of whether the 2030 agenda is achieved, is successful, or is a failure. These are the goals. We all know the goals. It's been shared, but how do we internalize the goals? What do we understand? And how do these goals relate to a 10-year-old girl? Why 10? We are 10, and I will try to take you, like I said, through a few slides to help us understand why we particularly need to invest in the 10-year-old girl. This slide seeks to tell us the number of 10-year-old girls in the world. Half of the 10-year-old girls in the world reside in Asia, basically because China and India are, very huge countries, about 1 billion. And that does not mean we still do not have our issues in Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa as we speak. What do we know about the 10-year-old girl as we speak? More than half of the 10-year-old girls are in countries with high level of gender equality. Because of gender equality, we then begin to understand what are the reasons why the 10-year-old girl is specifically disadvantaged in countries that have high level of gender equality, as you will see in that report as you read. The obstacles to the path of adulthood. This is where we really try to focus on. The obstacles on the path to adulthood of the 10-year-old girl and how we relate to them and deal with them will be the things that will determine the future we have in 2030. As have been repeated by many speakers here today. And the impediments to the 10-year-old are health and well-being, violence, limited access to education, economic obstacles, and uneven protection of human rights. And these impediments would affect demography both in and out of school. So even though we put girls in school, the ones that are out of school also suffer the same impediments as the ones that are in school would suffer. However, putting the girl child in school gives us a high level of protection from the impediment that will limit her from achieving her potential. What do we need to do at this time? The 10 highlights that we have stated, I think that many countries have started to do now, and we can cite a lot of examples. It's commendable to say what the government and people of the Gambia are doing. Like you can say, of those 10, Gambia is working actively in almost half of them. But the consistent issues of education for the girl child must be noted. We must work fundamentally to keep the girl child in school so that she can have the same opportunities as open to every other girl child and boy in the world. I thank you very much for the report.
Now I would want to call upon a girl child who is going to deliver a statement on behalf of her colleagues. Madam, can you have the floor?
Mr. Chairperson, Her Excellency the Vice President of the Republic of the Gambia, Honorable Ministers present, Members of Parliament present, the UN Resident Coordinator, Permanent Secretaries present, Directors and other senior government officials, head of NGOs and civil society organizations, students and my fellow children present, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. My name is Zainab and I am 10 years old. It is indeed a great pleasure and honor for me to deliver a statement on behalf of all the children in the Gambia. At this very important event to launch the State of the World Population Report 2016. Chairperson, Her Excellency the Vice President, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, my fellow girls, we hear you adults always telling us that we are the future leaders, that you are building this world for us so that we can achieve our dreams and aspirations and be able to support you in your old age. In a few years, in 2024, I and other 59 million 10-year-old girls will turn 18 years. We will be adults, but our journey from adolescence to adulthood starts now. The support governments, parents, communities, and concerned adults give these 60 million 10-year-old girls. will be the main determinant of the type of collective future we share. This population report encourages you to assure us a brighter future and better future. One that will enable us realize our fullest potential. Chairperson, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, my fellow girls, we know our journey to adulthood is faced with numerous barriers such as increased risks and vulnerabilities, impediments to health and well-being, violence, limited access to education, uneven protection of human rights, and economic obstacles. However, we know the government of the Gambia, under the dynamic leadership of our dear President, is committed to the cause of children, most especially the girl child. We hope he will continue to provide us the opportunities to fly higher. Chairperson, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, my fellow girls, as a 10-year-old girl, like all of my age mates, we are capable of rapidly absorbing wisdom and knowledge from those around us. When you support us, we can become great and committed leaders, productive workers, innovators, caring parents, and very responsible citizens who can move forward to a dynamic society. We humbly request you to invest in us. We urge you to develop policies and institutions which will build a 10-year-old girl's human capital through provision of quality education and access to health information and services. Where we aim at depends on the support we receive and the power we have to shape our own future. On behalf of the girls in the Gambia, thank you.
Thank you very much, Zainab. Another round of applause for Madam Zainab. I want to recognize members of the High Table as well. But first of all, I have to start with the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly and Chairperson of the National Women's Council, who has been with us since yesterday. And that shows the interest of the National Assembly when it comes to people's development in general. Because what we are discussing yesterday and today affected people, affected women and children, and we have seen that interest. And we want to thank you, Madam, most profoundly, and please extend our gratitude to the Honorable Speaker. Of course, we have the Majority Leader in our midst as well. Majority Leader of the National Assembly, Bakari Tombong Jatta, a very active member of the, I'm sure, the National Assembly Select Committee on Population and Development. We want to recognize you most profoundly for representing the National Assembly as well, and any other members of the National Assembly here present. Of course, I want to recognize my colleague, the Deputy Minister of Works and Infrastructural Development, Ibrahim Njai, ably representing my other colleague, the Honorable Minister of Basic and Secondary Education. The UNDP resident representative and resident coordinator of the UN system in the Gambia. And of course, the representative of the UNFPA country office, Nkule, and the girl child, whose occasion it is today, Zainab, who gave a very wonderful statement, no doubt. Of course, we have members of the Diplomatic and Consular Corps in our midst, including the UN country team. The Ambassador of Sierra Leone was with us yesterday as well as today. And of course, other members of the Diplomatic and Consular Corps, the Ambassador of the EU is also with us, and we want to recognize you and thank you for your support as well. The Qatari Ambassador is in our midst as well, and other members of the Diplomatic and Consular Corps and development partners here present. We want to also recognize, as I said, other heads of UN agencies. I can see some of them in front of me right here. WFP,
UNICEF, and I'm sure there are other members of the UN team here present. I can see UNFPA, Mr. Mboj, and there are others in our midst. The Executive Director of the Women's Bureau, other senior government officials are in our midst as well. Other partners in development, I'm sure population task force members are here. Women leaders, I can see them. Women councillors, mobilizers in our midst. We want to recognize them as the mothers of these 10-year-olds that we are talking about. These women were also 10 years old some time ago. Just like I was, everyone was. So we thank you for being here. And of course, most of all, the young children themselves. School girls, and I'm sure among them you have 10-year-olds as well. We have youth in our midst. And the police band and other members of the security, the organizing committee, the members of the press, and all other protocols duly and respectfully observed. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is my singular honor and privilege, as always, as chairperson, of course, of the National Population Commission in the Gambia, on behalf of the Commission, to deliver the keynote statement today at this auspicious occasion, which is the launch of the 2016 State of the World Population Report, entitled 10, How Our Future Depends on a Girl at this Decisive Age, Girls Like Zainab. Therefore, on behalf of the government of the Gambia and His Excellency the President, I would like to applaud the UNFPA first and foremost, who are the organizers of this auspicious event, and their partners in government as well, who are working with them, and other members of civil society, for the timeliness of the launch of this very important report. Everywhere in the world, the report is being launched at varying times, and I'm sure by the end of the year, we would all have launched it as a globe. This report is part of a global campaign, as has been highlighted, to draw out support for the newly adopted United Nations 2030 Global Development Agenda for Sustainable Development. The new Global Development Agenda, which aims for equitable development for all, that leaves, like they said, no one behind. Everybody should be part of it. Everybody should benefit from that global agenda, and it should trickle down to the rest of society. But first, ladies and gentlemen, I would like and want us to ask, of course, ourselves one question before proceeding further. How do we perceive the 10-year-old girl child? How do we in the Gambia? For me, the 10-year-old girl child is a child standing in the brink or cusp of adolescence and experiencing many significant changes. We already saw the video and we know where we are in the Gambia. Changes can be physical in nature, emotional, cognitive, and otherwise. The 10-year-old seeks to become more independent as people grow, as children grow, more than ever before, and is increasingly spending more time with friends and doing more activities, even without family. We all know what we are talking about in the day and age of ICT. These days, our young girls are talking to their mobile phones, you know, the internet, cyber cafes. We all know iPads for those who can afford it. That's what they talk to more often. That's what they can relate to more. So indeed, sometimes they do activities without family, talking to their peer groups, etc. At the same time, the 10-year-old is still in the early childhood phase of development. For sure, a 10-year-old girl is a child, and will need and want, in addition to love, of course, from family, friends, and society as a whole, needs protection as well, guidance and supervision from parents everywhere and every time. In our honest minds, as Gambians, are the aspirations of the 10-year-old girl always met in our society, in our country, in our community? At 10, a girl arrives at a critical, vulnerable point. That's a very vulnerable age in her life. She must negotiate a tricky transition to becoming an adult, with its rapid changes, we all know when you go into adolescence, the sort of changes, in body as well as in mind, and dramatic shifts in family and social expectations. The expectations of us, of that girl child, sometimes is very high and unreasonable sometimes. Although risks abound for both girls and boys, however, as has been highlighted, gender discrimination makes these worse for girls, almost every day and every way and everywhere. Girls are at risk, for example, of violence virtually everywhere in the home, working to collect water or firewood as those in the rural areas, traveling to school or the market, and even in the classroom, as per Patrick 2007 has quoted. We are all aware of that, but we know, of course, the success of the Gambian story. I think that has already been read and highlighted. The report underscores the fact that practices that harm girls and violate their human rights, starting at age 10, prevent them from realizing their full potentials as adults and from contributing, of course, to the economic and social progress of their communities and nations. But we all realize also that without their contribution and full participation, the United Nations Agenda 2030, as Kunkule has said, for sustainable development, and its accompanying, of course, 17 goals and 169 objectives, may never be achieved. The report further underscores that 10 is a very pivotal age for girls everywhere, as puberty, as we say, approaches. In some parts of the world, a girl at this age enjoys limitless possibilities and begins making choices that will influence her education and later her work life, of course. But in other parts, a girl who goes through puberty is seen as a commodity that may be bought, sold, or traded. For example, she may be forced to marry early at that age, pulled out of school, and expected to start bearing children and begin a lifestyle of servitude. Young children producing children and taking care of children. I therefore agree with my brother and friend, of course, Dr. Babatunde Osotimehen, who is the UNFPA Executive Director in New York, when he said that impeding a girl's safe, healthy path through adolescence to a productive and autonomous adulthood is a violation of her rights, but it also takes a toll on her community and nation. Whenever a girl's potentials goes unrealized, we, as a society, all of us, lose. The State of the World Population Report further notes that of the 125 million 10-year-old girls today, 60 million, or 10 million of 10-year-olds, 60 million are girls out of that. That means it's a big chunk, who are systematically disadvantaged at the global level, and they move through adolescence into adulthood. Girls are likely, that is less likely of course than boys, to complete formal schooling at the secondary and university levels, and are more likely to be in poorer physical and mental health, and will find it harder to get paid jobs. We should thank the leadership in this country because of their foresight. Today in many schools, there are more girls than boys, particularly at the basic level. And I'm sure if that continues, and they are not married or taken out of school, we're going to see more girls than boys, even in the tertiary institutions, that is the University of the Gambia. In fact, I want to recognize the Vice Chancellor, he was here with us, of the University of the Gambia. So we are realizing that. And it will be hard for them to get jobs as well, particularly well-paid jobs. The range of proven policy options available to governments has grown over the past decade. This includes, of course, what we are doing in the Gambia, banning female genital mutilation, early marriage, and providing cash transfers, At least His Excellency the President has the President Empowerment of Girls Education Program. Her Excellency the First Lady is also assisting in that regard, but in addition helping disadvantaged children, the disabled, etc. But there are other efforts also by civil society, by our development partners, in providing cash transfers to parents of girls in poorer households to help them defray costs of schooling, and thus keep girls in school for a longer period. They also include providing life skills, training, and age-appropriate comprehensive sexuality education to girls approaching puberty. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, statistics have shown that 9 out of 10 10-year-old girls live in developing countries like ours, and 1 in 5 live in least developed countries like Uganda, and 1 in 5 in India, and 1 in 8 in China. Each year of education delivers an additional 11.7% uplift in wages in later life for girls, compared with 9.6% for men. Yet 16 million girls between 6 and 11 will never start school in some places, twice the number of boys. If the 10-year-old girls who drop out of school, or who do not attend school for that matter, in developing countries, completed secondary education, it would surely trigger a very positive impact on our GDP. A $21 billion annual dividend, $21 billion annual dividend would be expected. 10% of 5 to 14-year-old girls do more than 20 violence, suffer in silence, we all know. Constraint factors such as fear of reprisals, unequal power relations, stigma, discrimination, and undue pressure from family and friends, especially if the perpetrator is a family member. As a result, most cases of violence against women and girls, especially those occurring at home, example, wife beating, incest, etc., go unreported. Only 38% of abused women sought help to stop violence. 41% of women aged between 15 and 49 have experienced physical violence at least once since age 15, according to our demographic and health survey in the Gambia here, 2013. In addition, the government of the Gambia, of course, in its various multifarious development policies and programs, upholds the right of adolescents and youth to access information as well as services related to comprehensive sexual and reproductive health. I'm proud to intimate that the Gambia has indeed ensured the integration of adolescent and youth reproductive health issues in the health and national population policies and programs for the accelerated growth and employment page 1 as well as page 2, which is in the making. Regarding progress made in addressing gender inequality, equity, and the empowerment of women and girls, vis-a-vis implementation of the Beijing Platform of Action and its 12 critical areas of concern and other international conventions, the adoption of our 1997 Constitution, which is a very progressive constitution, marked a watershed in the empowerment of Gambian women and girls. Given the importance of health and education as well to the socio-economic development of women and girls in particular, the government committed a significant amount of the national budget to the social sector, we all know, namely education, health, and social security, among others, separate from the contributions of our development partners. This has resulted in marked improvements in education and health infrastructural development, quality service delivery, as well as accessibility to the existing network of health facilities countrywide. This has also significantly contributed to improvement of the health status of women and children in the last decade. The government of the Gambia continues to demonstrate high political will, particularly in providing adolescents and youth-friendly reproductive health centers countrywide with the facilities. Most recently, Operation Save the Children Foundation, under the stewardship, of course, of no other than by Her Excellency, the First Lady, Madam Zainab Yahya Jammeh, launched Operation End Marriage in the Gambia, End Child Marriage in the Gambia. the all-important, of course, presidential declaration banning and criminalizing the practice of FGMC throughout the Gambia as well. Ladies and gentlemen, it is therefore quite obvious that here in the Gambia, our girls will not be left behind for sure, because the president, the first lady, the entire government, and the people will make sure that they are not left behind. For we will take advantage of this demographic transition as other countries have done. We will strive to invest specifically in our daughters and ensure that each young person and each young adolescent girl has access to education and quality health care, including comprehensive sexuality education, of course, and reproductive health services as well. At this juncture, on behalf of the government of the Gambia, of course on behalf of the 10-year-old Gambian girl, that is the girl child at 10, and indeed on my own behalf, I'd like to commend with heartfelt gratitude the UN family, the UN system through the UNDP resident coordinator and resident representative of the UN system in the Gambia. That is the UNFPA included, UNICEF, UNDP, and all other players in the UN system. And indeed all our development partners by extension, working in the area of population and development, for their support in addressing population and development issues. Having said that, and on this note, I have the distinguished honor and privilege to declare the 2016 State of the World Population Report duly launched today here in the Gambia on this 9th day of November 2016 at Kairaba Beach Hotel. I thank you all for your kind attention. May Allah the Almighty continue to shower His blessings upon the Gambia, upon the girl child, upon all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for that wonderful speech. I do not think there's anything that needs to be said anymore after such excellent speech for the girl child. On behalf of the United Nations Population Fund, I hand over the State of the World Population 2016 to the government of Gambia. Thank you very much.